Now, we reviewed this pretty recently. This is the MSI Stealth GS77 and it's a really solid 17.3-inch gaming laptop through and through. It's got an updated, more minimalistic design, it sports a great CPU and GPU combo to tear through all those games, and it has a nice large IPS display with a high refresh rate that not only looks great but feels nice. But today we are putting it through a different set of tests and to see whether this laptop can do not just great in gaming but for everything else as well. Huge thanks to MSI for sponsoring this video, so let's get into it. As we've mentioned earlier, we did a review of this pretty recently, so if you've yet to watch that, you can check it out in the card up above or in the description down below. If you want to know more about the gaming performance and the thermals, definitely watch that video. But for today, let's look at the other side of the coin, or in this case, the laptop. As MSI claims, this laptop is made for both business and gaming. Now, business includes professionals, and professionals includes creatives. So in that regard, let's take a look at how this performs in those scenarios. But first up, the specs. For our config, we have the latest 12th Gen Intel Core i7-12700H, we have the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070 Ti with 105W TGP, 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, and 1TB of PCIe 4.0 SSD storage. Using MSI Sensor, there will be various profiles to choose from: Super Battery, Silent, Balance, and Extreme Performance. In addition, you can turn on the Cooler Booster profile in Extreme Performance, which basically tunes the fans to maximum speed. For the following benchmarks, we'll focus on all of them except Super Battery. So first up, let's take a look at the performance of the CPU and GPU in various benchmarks applications to kind of get a general overview. Sure enough, it performs admirably in Cinebench R23. Silent yields the least performance as expected, with the CPU power limited and fans on the minimum. Balance is literally just that, and it brings the multi-core score above 10,000 and a good increase in single core as well, now nearing 1700. Bringing it up to Extreme Performance, and the multi-core score now nears 13,000, while adding on Cooler Boost brings that up to basically 14,000. We now move to DaVinci Resolve, and we tested on both 1080p projects and 4K projects. At 1080p, there's no doubt that this can render really fast. Even on the silent profile, it can render faster than real time. But of course, we do definitely suggest using Extreme Performance mode or even with Cooler Booster turned on if you don't mind the noise. The same can be said for the 4K projects, in which it can handle with relative ease as well, and still in real time too. For all you 3D artists out there, Blender 3.1 gives a good baseline of what you can expect. We ran the basic benchmark, which includes running the monster, junk shop, and classroom scenes. With just the Intel Core i7-12700H, it got a respectable score in terms of samples per minute at 109, 65, and 49 respectively. Turn on Cooler Booster and performance increases ever so slightly just for the monster scene, while the rest remains the same. Now, Blender does also support the use of the GPU for rasterization instead, and these are the results for the very same test: 1468, 857, and 760 respectively. Turn on Cooler Booster and the performance rises yet again just for the monster scene, achieving a slightly higher 1485 while the other two remain relatively the same. We then move on to V-Ray, and this offers 3 separate benchmarks, one for the CPU, secondly for the GPU using CUDA, and thirdly for the GPU using RTX. For the standard test, the Core i7 scored just slightly above 11,000 V samples, while for the CUDA test, the RTX 3070 Ti scored roughly 1200 V paths. Lastly, we have the RTX test, and it came up to about 1570 on the V-Rays. We also turned on Cooler Booster and ran through the test yet again, and the results are, again, slightly higher across the board, but nothing significant. But thus far, all that we have shared are just benchmarks, which don't really translate that well to actual real-world experiences. So in that regard, we actually took this very laptop and we fired up DaVinci Resolve, loaded our own footage, and we edited a project of our own. And this is our experience with it. Safe to say, starting a project and importing footage was really easy and smooth. Just slot in your SD card into the SD card reader, transfer it into your drive in a folder of your choice, and you can simply navigate within Resolve and bring it into the project. With everything in the project, we created a new timeline with our standard settings and we're basically off to the races. Previewing footage in the window and dragging and dropping onto the timeline was of no issues at all. Even just scrubbing through the 4K 25p footage shot using a Sony a7 III onto the timeline was of little to no difficulty for that Core i7-12700H and the RTX 3070 Ti combo. The only time we experienced any hiccups was really only the slight delay between pressing the play button and for it to actually play, but even then, it's minimal at best. We move on to add on more effects, add some text graphics as needed, and then to color correction and grading. This process would usually tax the system a little more, but the Stealth GS77 certainly handled it with ease. And even playing back footage that has been graded onto the timeline was smooth with zero drop frames. On the occasion that we needed to talk to our colleagues with regards to the edit, we just hopped on to Google Meets or Zoom. And honestly, this laptop has a pretty good webcam with decent microphones as well, so we are well covered there. After which, we can just put on the finishing touches. In the end, we turned on Cooler Booster and clicked Render. In less than the length of the final edit itself, it'll be rendered and ready to be uploaded and shared. All in all, it's been a really solid experience, and I would say that it does give you that confidence no matter where you may be. Now of course, there are some drawbacks here and there, nothing is ever perfect, but given the form factor of this very laptop, it really does perform. It's stealthy in nature, pun intended, but yet packs the punch to power all your gaming and professional needs. Just make sure that you have a big enough backpack to carry it around and definitely keep the power adapter close by as well. If you do so, you'll be all set. Once again, thanks to MSI for sponsoring this video. And if you have any questions, let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. Till the next one, see ya!